Okay, so this is a video for Jody. She bought this Lego Stormtrooper file on Etsy and wanted to cut it out to put it on a t-shirt. But there's some problems with it. If we will look, this is just the file as it was purchased off of Etsy. And if I go, if I select the Stormtrooper and then click on the Nodes tool, you can see that it is just an outline, okay? And there's nothing filling in the spaces. So what Jody wanted to do was have the Stormtrooper be white and black and put him on a blue shirt. And so to do this, what I would do is I would make a solid black outline and then fill in all of these shapes with white and then union them together so that they're all one piece and cut all together. And then on the t-shirt, put down the black shadow layer first and then layer the white cutout on top of that. So to do that, we just have to make a few changes, and it's just a little tedious here, but it's really easy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to fill in all of these empty spaces with white, and instead of using white I'm going to use gray so I can just see which ones I've filled in. So I'm going to go back to the selector tool over here and make sure that nothing is selected, and then I'm going to click on the paint bucket and I'm going to come down here to the color palette and just choose a light gray color, and I'm going to check my settings for the paint bucket. And for the paint bucket now, I've got it set on visible colors, threshold 17. This doesn't really matter for what we're doing. And then grow shrink, I've got it set to 0.01 inches. I'm going to change that to pixels. And so I tried a couple of options first, and I'll just show you when I was at 0 pixels. And let's see, we'll want to zoom in a little more. Okay, back to the paint bucket. When I was at 0 pixels and tried to fill, well, that's actually pretty good. I don't know what it was doing before, but I'm going to set it at minus 0.5 and see what that looks like. And that's just, yeah, okay, so you can see if I zoom in a little more, if I set it at minus 0.5, it gives a little gap in here. And I think that will actually be good because it's going to make the black lines a little thicker once we get to the end. So I'm just going to leave that at minus 0.5 and then continue to fill in the rest of these areas. I'm using my mouse scroll to scroll up and down in the picture. When you're filling with the paint bucket, you want to make sure that the whole area that you fill in is visible on the screen. Like, for example, I wouldn't want to fill this area here because I can't see the whole thing. And then you want to make sure you're zoomed in as much as possible because it does fill better when you're zoomed in. Okay, so I'm just quickly going through and filling in all of these things that we want to be white. And I'm going to have to, let's see, all of that's on the screen. And just go through. I'm going to have to zoom out a little to get his gun here. And then I'll zoom back in. To zoom in and out, I'm using the plus and minus keys on the keyboard. That's just a keyboard shortcut. And to scroll back and forth, I'm pressing the scroll wheel and dragging. I don't know if that's a special setting I have my mouse on or if that's just standard. Okay, almost done. Now I'm going to press the minus key to zoom out and make sure I've got everything filled. And I do. Now here's another keyboard shortcut. If I click and drag to select everything and then press 3, it zooms my selection to as big as it'll get on my screen. Alright, so now you can see each of these white pieces, I'm calling them white, they're actually gray. They're separate, and we want to get those all together so that they stay together for cutting. So to do that, I'm going to click on one of them and then right click on the mouse and go down to select same and then go down to fill color. That will select everything that's filled with gray. And that's a really convenient shortcut when you're doing stuff like this, because it would be a pain to hold down the shift key and go through and select every single one. So now what we want to do is we want to union these together. And you can go up to Path, Union. Okay, now they are all one piece. and they will all move together, and when you import that into Design Space, it'll all be one thing. Okay, now usually I do the next step. I'm just pressing Control Z to get it back. Usually I do the next step while it's all together so I don't have to center it again, but I'm going to go ahead and drag this layer off so that you can see what's happening in the background. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make this completely solid to make it easy to layer. It's just going to be a black shadow layer. So I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to go to Path, Break Apart. Oh, you know what I have to do? If I look down here, it tells me it's a group. I have to ungroup it. So Control Shift G. Now it tells me it's a path. Now I can do the Path Break Apart. Okay, that breaks it down into all of its shapes, and now we just want to union it back together. Path Union. Okay, now that's one solid shape, and if I take this and drag it on top, you can see that it's just a little bit bigger than the Stormtrooper. Now, because HTV shrinks a little when you heat it, I would like to make that back layer just a little bit bigger to give a little bit more wiggle room for layering and to account for the shrinkage. So what I'm going to do, a shortcut for selecting that back layer, because it's hard to select it, it's hard to get, you know, even if I'm zoomed in, it's hard to select that outside. An easier way to do that is to select the thing that's on top, hold down the Alt key, and click again, and now I've selected the thing that's behind. And you can see down here what I've got selected has this black fill color. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outset this a little bit to give a little more wiggle room and to account for this shrinkage. So you can do that with Path, Outset, or you can use the keyboard shortcut, which is Control and close parentheses. And since we're going to have to do it a couple of times, I'm going to use the shortcut. Now, if you do this outset and you find that it's either not outsetting enough or it's outsetting too much, you can edit how much Inkscape outsets by going up to Edit, Preferences, and then if you click on, it's here under Behavior and Steps, and here you see Inset Outset, and I've got it set to a 1/2 pixel. So, Control, close parentheses, and you can see that that outline is growing just a little bit. And we'll make it a little bit thicker than we think looks good because of the shrinking. Okay? And that should be it. We can take this white now, the gray, and change it back to white. And that should be ready to go. Now, before you save this, you'll want to make sure for preview purposes that it's on your canvas. And if you were to have it something like I design a lot of times off the canvas completely, and my last step before I go to save it is to press Control Shift R, which automatically resizes the canvas to exactly fit my image or drawing. So then I would just save this and then upload it to Design Space, and that should be good and ready to cut. So hope that helps. Thanks.